We'll start recording soon, and I'll just go into my introduction. Hello, everybody. I am your host, Eric Smith. We're going to jump straight into my favorite horror with author, editor, reviewer, horror cheerleader, wonderful person, Janine Pipe. Welcome, Janine.
Thank you very much. Oh, I like that introduction.
All right. Well, first of all, let's just show off this wonderful of your collection.
I haven't been talking about that much.
Twisted Tainted Tale, still one of my favorite covers.
Thank you.
I would hang that on the wall. All right, I'm going to try to bust things wide open right off the bat. With everything that you've been doing, are you a robot?
Yes.
I knew it. You heard it here first, folks.
Oh, damn, the secret is out. Yeah. I know, it's crazy. I'm kind of like juggling everything and just hoping that I don't drop anything at the moment. But yeah, it's been crazy.
Well, recently, this wonderful book came out.
Yay. Yeah.
Slash Her from Candicia Press, edited by Janine Pipe, Jill Girardi.
Yes.
And you've been promoting this for a long time. I was very excited to finally get my hands on it. I have not had a chance to read it yet. Just got it earlier. Well, I guess last week is when I got it. This is Sunday. Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, when I started sort of working at the press with Jill, I just knew that a slasher anthology was what I wanted to do. And it is such a male-dominated subgenre as well, you know, and typically within movies and things, if there are females, I mean, it's getting better and you've got people like Sidney Prescott and, you know, whatnot, but usually it's the females within it are the final girls and they're cool and they're awesome. But what about if the females were the actual slashers and that kind of thing? Let's see what we can do with that. Let's show that women can do stories that are as violent as everything else. And Jill was like, yeah, that's fine, you know, go ahead, because she's awesome. So I wanted it to be half invite and half open call, because there were some women I knew that I wanted on board, and luckily more or less everybody that we approached was a straight up yes. There were a few people that we would have loved to have had involved that were just too busy, and they were kind of like sad that they couldn't be involved with such an awesome project, but most people were straight in. And we had so many amazing submissions as well that it's the worst part of being an editor, is having to say no to these awesome stories. I mean, you can only hope that they'll find a home, you know, in some other anthology somewhere. But we had some brilliant stories, but we couldn't have a, you know, an anthology with 50 stories in it, because no one would ever be able to review it. So we picked the best of the best, and there's quite a varied bunch in there as well. We've got a couple of own voices, you know, and that was another thing that was important. We wanted there to be, you know, anybody that identifies as a woman and all that kind of, you know, make sure that everybody that we could represent was in there, and women of color and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really do very much. I read the stories, I selected the most awesome and put it together. It's the women that wrote the stories that need to be championed, because they are fucking amazing. There's some dark shit in there. If anyone thinks that women can't write dark and twisted stuff, then they should read some of these stories.
Well, you've got a Barbara Crampton blurb.
Yeah.
On the cover. How'd you do that?
One of my things in life is don't ask, then you won't get. And obviously that comes with a caveat that you need to approach people, you know, professionally and all of that kind of stuff. But I literally just reached out to her. She's very active on Twitter. She's a big advocate for indie horror and women-led horror as well. I literally just messaged her and said, I'm putting out this book. It would be absolutely amazing to have an icon such as yourself, you know, to be able to blurb it for us. Would you be able to? And she is just the nicest person. She didn't make any promises, because obviously she's super busy as well. And she said that she would be honest, you know, so if she picked it up and didn't like it, then that she's not going to put her famous name onto it, which is, you know, fair enough. But luckily the ones that she read, she loved, and she was just fantastic. And yeah, whenever I look at that and I'm like, Barbara Crampton, that's so awesome.
You've got a cover from Gemma Amor?
Yes.
That the proper pronunciation?
That's it, yeah. Again, we wanted to try and just keep it with as many women involved as possible. So, like when you showed my cover for Twisted, it's Neil Fraser that did that. And I love that cover to bits, but Neil's obviously a dude, you know. We wanted to have a woman do it, and Gemma is just phenomenal. She is so talented. And basically I said to her that I wanted the knife with like the blood on it that says slasher. That was all I gave her. And I said, and possibly, like, I think it was one of the original Scream posters had like I think it was Drew Barrymore's eyes or something like that on there. That was like basically all I gave her, and she went away and came up with that, and we were blown away. It's a beautiful cover.
Yes, it looks fantastic. It has a great table of contents. Some fantastic writers that I am familiar with, some that I'm not that familiar with. And yeah, I can't wait to dig in. This is high on my TBR
Thank you.
pile. I was so excited once the release date was finally arrived.
Yeah, we did tease it for a long time.
I recently picked up a couple issues of Scream magazine. One of the reasons I like that magazine is it does have book reviews. And of course, there are quite a few in there from you. Are you still reviewing for them?
Yes. Yeah.
See, robot, you must be.
Yeah, Scream is the only publication that I kind of religiously review for. Everybody else, I'm sorry, kind of like have had to reduce that because I physically don't have time to read as much at the moment. That's been the issue. So because I used to do quite a lot of stuff for Cemetery Dance and Horror DNA, I've found that I've done a few movie reviews now for Stewie over at Horror DNA, because you can watch a movie in an hour and a half, whereas a book can sometimes take me several weeks to read now because I just haven't got the time. So I think movie reviews is going to be something where I'm going to be trying to go down that road if that still, you know, is something that I've got time for. But yeah, unfortunately, reading now is just something which just doesn't happen very often, especially because of doing like obviously when you're editing and when you're pulling an anthology together, that's all you're doing. You're reading stories constantly. And when you're constantly reading stuff, then when it comes to kind of like bedtime or your free time and whatnot, you're like, bloody hell, I don't want to read again. Oh, that's all I've done all day. So it's difficult. But yeah, I do. And I've got my very first feature coming out for Scream magazine in the next issue as well, which is late April. That should be out.
Nice. Yeah, that kind of goes with this series that I do, My Favorite Horror. You know, I want people to pick whatever they want to pick, be it a book, a movie. I've had someone pick a PC game. People can pick board games, comic books, whatever they want. But yes, when someone picks a movie, yeah, I can set aside an hour and a half, 2 hours to watch the movie before I talk to somebody. If they pick a book, it's nice if I can have a little lead time to try and read that book and fit it in. I actually just did one of these, and they picked a book that I had read decades ago, but did not have time to read again and refresh my memory, unfortunately. Yeah, movies are much easier.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get into that a little bit later when we get to our main event. Excuse me. So now you're working on something that I am very, very excited about, which is Sausages, the making of dog soldiers.
Yeah.
For Encyclopocalypse.
Yes.
How did this come about?
Okay. Well, first of all, I every time I hear the name of it, it makes me laugh. I don't know how I'm going to promote it. It's just such a stupid name, but it fits so perfectly. So how it came about was through Scream magazine, basically. So I'd been reviewing for Scream for a while, but what I really wanted to do was write an actual proper feature for them as well. And Dog Soldiers has been my favorite movie ever since, you know, it came out. So 20 years has been my favorite movie. And I realized it was coming up to the 20-year anniversary. So I thought, shit, it's now or never, you know, I could do a retrospective feature for it. So I pitched it to my editor at Scream magazine. And he said, it sounds amazing. But to make it obviously worthwhile for the magazine, rather than just you talking about it, you need to speak to Neil Marshall. So I was like, okay, shit. How am I going to get a hold of Neil Marshall? He's like my idol, my God, you know, like people that you put up on a pedestal. Neil Marshall is there for me. And thankfully, I managed to get hold of some details for his agent, and he more or less got straight back to me. I was like, yeah, of course, I'd love to sit down and do an interview with you. So we did that, and through Neil, I managed to speak to Sean Pertwee as well, who is also the most awesome person ever. But what I realized at the end of it was this was like a 5,000 word feature, and it was fantastic, but I had so much more to say about it, and I wanted to write a book about it, but I didn't even really know where to start with that. And so the very first thing I figured that I needed was Neil to be on board, because again, if I wrote something about it and it was just me writing about it, it would be like a long ass love letter about, you know, why this fan loves this book. And it would be all right, but it's not going to have all of the behind the scenes stuff, all of the how, you know, how they actually did this and did that. So I spoke to Neil and he was like, hell yeah, that sounds absolutely awesome. I would love to have you write a book about it. So I was like, right, I've got Neil on board. That's awesome. Now what am I going to do? And I had seen some pictures that like on Instagram or Twitter or something like that of some of the Encyclopocalypse book covers, you know, like Fright Night and Wishmaster and Reanimator and all this kind of stuff. So I knew that they did movie stuff. So again, I just did the same approach as I did with Barbara Crampton. I sent them a message and I said, want to write a book about dog soldiers. Not really sure exactly how to go about it. This is the least professional pitch I kind of ever done, but would you like to kind of talk to me? And immediately Mark, the editor there, was like, I love Neil Marshall too. I love dog soldiers. Let's do it. And it was as simple as that. It didn't have to do anything formally. You know, Mark was just like, yes, let's do this. And thankfully, because of having Neil behind it, I've spoken to nearly every single actor involved, you know, most of the crew, loads of other directors have given me quotes and things. I've spoken to Edgar Wright, I've spoken to James Wan, I've spoken to Joe Dante, I've spoken to Mick Garris, just like loads of people, which has just been absolutely amazing. But because everybody loves the movie so much and people love Neil because he's such a genuine, down-to-earth guy, it's been easy to get people on board. So it's actually been, you know, like if I've said like, oh, you know, please can I have 5 minutes of your time, and I'm expecting people to say no, everybody's been like, yes, I want to be part of this amazing project. So it's been just fantastic from start to finish.
Amazing.
I'm so excited.
Now, all of those people that you've spoken to, do any of them know that you're a robot?
They're all robots too. When you find out how hard these directors work and that they're just constantly on the go, you know, directing, editing, writing, pitching, all this kind of stuff, I don't know how any of them have got time to sleep. I really don't. It's just mad.
Yeah, that's why I'm not a famous Hollywood director. I need my sleep.
Yeah.
Now, I believe you're also doing a book that's just sort of all of Neil Marshall's work. Is that correct?
Yes. So at some point we will do a biography for him as well, but
Okay.
that and that will come. But there are other bits and pieces which we may do in between. So there's a few things which I can't talk about, but in the works that if they come first, we'll do them. but otherwise we'll work on the biography and we'll do all of that. And we're also going to do one of these for the Descent as well, because that will have its 20th anniversary in 25. So, which seems like it's ages away, but actually when you start getting stuff together and whatnot in the publishing world, you know, a few years is actually not that far away. So yeah, Neil's going to be sick of me by the end of this.
Well, I absolutely love behind the scenes and making of type books. Just glancing past my computer, I have one on Highlander. It's a movie I love.
Yeah.
Tremors, and then down there, one about all of the Halloween movies, and Phantasm, and I love Dog Soldiers as well. So as I said, I'm very, very much looking forward to sausages.
Yeah.
um, which, when I rewatched Dog Soldiers, it's such a small sausages, such a small little thing.
Yeah.
So why, like, you could have gone with what you have in your Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Or Twitter name, which is My Guts Are Out Coop.
Yeah.
Which I love. Why sausages? Why not something like My Guts Are Out or any of the other potential?
It's when I spoke to Sean, he said, you know, it's the thing that when he goes to conventions and stuff, obviously the majority of the conventions and things he does these days is to do with Gotham, because, you know, that's probably his most famous thing, being Alfred for Gotham. But people will still come up to him and just say sausages.
Okay.
And it was actually Neil's idea, so I will fully credit Neil when I said to Neil, "What are we going to call this thing?" Because it's basically a collaboration between me and Neil. He said, "Oh, I think sausages is a brilliant name for it," and I was like, I just burst out laughing because immediately, if you're a Dog Soldiers fan, you know what it means. You know it's to do with Sean's guts, and there's a story in there about that they used kind of like real skin of sausages, and it went off, and Sean stank for like half of the shoot because he was just going off. And so there's like all this kind of like connotation with it. And I said to Sean, "What do you think?" And he was like, "Yes, call it sausages. That'll be amazing." So I was like, "Right." I just got to check with Mark at the press as well to make sure he's like, "What the fuck?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's brilliant. We need to call it sausages." So there we go.
That is fantastic. Excuse me. Now, this seems a little crazy. Are you working on anything else?
The only other thing that I am working on, which is really just like a word here and there because I just don't have time, is a screenplay. Which is I haven't been crazy enough to create it from scratch. It's going to be a screenplay version of Footsteps from Twisted. So the women that go into the woods and get hunted by the fucked up wolf man, as he's described as. But obviously, because that's such a short story and there's only 2 real characters in there and the wolf, I'm just kind of like elaborating and embellishing on that story. So that is in the pipeline, haha, pun intended. But that might take a while. But that's the other thing that's kind of like going on. And then although I haven't started on it fully, we've got the coming of age call, open call with Clash Books, which is open until October, but there's just loads and loads of things coming in for that, so we're gonna have to start reading through those soon and chasing, because we've got, I think it's 12 invited authors for that, so just touching base with those guys and things like that. So there's something going on constantly. There's no respite.
Thus, robot.
Yeah. It's true, it has to be.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna have a lot of things to talk about in our main event, as I call it. But before we get to that, I like to do fake ads because I really want someone to sponsor my show. Although I realized that I'm sort of shooting myself in the foot here because I'm giving away free publicity. Why would someone sponsor me when I'm just giving it away? But so the non-sponsor for this episode of My Favorite Horror With has to be Encyclopocalypse
Yay.
publications. Is that what they're called?
Yes.
So folks out there who are watching, you should check out the books of Encyclopocalypse. They do original fiction such as The Final Gate, Wesley Southard, Lucas Mangum, a love letter to Lucio Fulci, a fantastic book. So originals such as that. They do new editions of older works, Dracula in Love, John Shirley. These are just the samples that I pulled off of my shelves. So you can get old stuff in new copies. Novelizations, lots and lots of novelizations. This is one of the most recent, or perhaps the most recent as of recording, Vamp, which also includes, it's got interviews, photographs, the screenplay. I was about to say original, but I think it says it's the third draft of the screenplay. I've got a ton of their novelizations, and of course, upcoming works like Sausages. So folks, check out our non-sponsor, Encyclopocalypse Publications, even though they have one of the most difficult names to say.
Yes, it's my so far, obviously, everything that I have done with them, the guys behind, the press, Mark, Sean, Christian, they are absolutely fantastic. One of the best presses I've ever worked with, apart from the damn name. I can't spell it, I can't say it. It's just like, why? Why have you called yourself that? And you probably can't, because the light's so shit in here, but I have got a nice sample of their stuff there as well, just to...
Nice. So is that a Hellraiser?
Yes.
Book? Is that the Toll?
Yes.
See, I keep going on Amazon and trying to get it, and I think it keeps, every time it tells me it's not in print at the moment, or not available at the moment.
I literally got that today, so it's obviously back in print, certainly in the UK.
Well, I will have to jump on Amazon and see. One of the books I almost pulled was, I have the Bloodlines script, which apparently quite different than the final product.
Yeah.
And, I can see right there, Scared to Death.
Nice.
Which I just realized, I just recently bought a new TV. This is my first smart TV, 4K, and it's a Samsung, and they have Samsung TV Plus. So there's all these channels on there, and one of them is the Riff Tracks channel.
Okay.
And just yesterday, I realized that this novelization from Matt Serafini, Scared to Death, is a movie that has been on the Riff Tracks channel multiple times in the past week.
Oh, wow.
And I've been watching it, and it just sort of hit me. Well, I was like, wait a minute, I have that book. This is the thing.
Matt's great as well. He's such an awesome guy and awesome writer. Really, really cool.
Yeah, I was excited to see him doing this. I have some of his original stuff. So yeah, folks, check out Encyclopocalypse Publications. And yeah, as soon as we are done, I'm going to check on Amazon and see if the Toll is available, because I've been eyeballing that for a long time.
There we go.
All right. Well, now we are ready for the main event. Your choice for my favorite horror you went with a director. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
We're talking about Neil Marshall.
Yay!
So, can you quickly, before we dig deep into this, can you quickly tell us why Neil Marshall?
Why Neil Marshall? His films are just so character driven, but also so completely bonkers. Yeah. And there's just somebody in all of his movies that I always completely resonate with. There's just moments in there where I'm just bursting with laughter, or literally, like The Descent, sort of closing my eyes and wanting it to go away because it scared the shit out of me. His dialogue is just amazing. It's so realistic and authentic. But they're just the kind of movies that you can get lost in. You can just sit there and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that time's just gone like that. You know, they're escapism movies, you know, and they're so different. You've got things like Dog Soldiers, which I obviously adore to death, but it's just funny. And the guys are like my family. You've got The Descent, which literally makes me want to cry because it scares me so much. You've got Doomsday, which is just absolutely bonkers. Got Centurion, which is just like historically and just visually stunning with some of the fight scenes, and you can see why some of the crew that worked on there recommended him for Game of Thrones and all of that. And then you've got The Reckoning, which I love witchcraft and all of that kind of time period anyway. And he loves Sean Pertwee, you know, and Sean is just one of my most favorite actors in the whole entire world. So anything that's Neil plus Sean is going to be just gold dust.
Now, you did skip one movie.
I did.
But it is in my stack here. Let's see if we can see what
yeah.
we got. Yes. Didn't mention Hellboy.
No.
So, all right, Neil Marshall. We're going to talk about these flicks. I just bought 5 of these. I had owned in the past Doomsday, Dog Soldiers, Descent, but when we decided this is what we were going to talk about, the only one I actually had at the moment was The Descent. So I bought these other 5, and yesterday I watched 4 of them.
Wow, that's amazing.
Now, Centurion and The Reckoning were the only 2 I had never seen.
Right.
So I watched Dog Soldiers first, because that's the big one. It's sausages, all of that, even though I had seen it before. I love it. Then I watched Centurion and The Reckoning, and then I went back and watched Doomsday. Hellboy I saw in the theater, so that's relatively recent, and The Descent I've seen many, many times. So I figured if I didn't have time, those were the 2 that I could sort of skip. Now, looking on IMDb, Mr. Marshall has a lot of TV credits.
Yeah.
Things I haven't seen necessarily. I've never watched Lost in Space or Westworld. But I will say, I was watching Constantine, or Teen, depending on who you are and where you're from. I did watch that as it aired and noticed Neil Marshall's name in the credits. I was very excited.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those few, I think, people that watch the credits.
Yeah.
I want to know who wrote the episode. I want to know who directed it. I was very excited to see that Neil Marshall directed a couple episodes of Constantine, one of my favorite comic book characters. As a matter of fact, I got a little Constantine right there.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, Constantine. So yeah, he's done a lot of TV. As you said, Game of Thrones. But we're going to talk about some of these flicks here. One of the things I noticed going through these, he likes landscapes.
Yes.
So many incredibly beautiful shots of just great vistas and landscapes and things. Every one of the movies that I watched yesterday had those shots.
Yeah.
And they're just fantastic. Excuse me. Now, I don't know if he shoots a lot of his stuff in the same locations or if he's just all over the place.
Wherever they can, you know, wherever they've got, because obviously it depends on money. So it's wherever they get a tax break or whether they could afford to shoot and things like that. But no, he shot all over. I think they're all shot in different places.
Well, I love special features. I had to get the movies watched. I do want to go back and watch like the commentaries and all of the behind the scenes stuff.
They're fantastic. Yeah.
But we'll start with Dog Soldiers. This is my Scream Factory.
Oh, jealous. I want that one.
With tons and tons of special features on it.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I saw this or The Descent first. I think it was this. And it was one of those movies that made me take notice of the writer-director and say to myself, all right, I want to see what this guy does. I'm going to watch out for what's coming up from him. Now, you say this is your favorite movie of all time.
Yes.
Do you remember the first time you saw it?
Yes, and it's a bit of a naughty story, really, because we were, and I've put it in the book as well. So I would love to say that we saw it in the cinema because it was released in theaters over here and it wasn't in the States. But I saw it when I was on holiday in Greece, in a bar, and it was a dodgy pirated copy where you could see the people. Obviously it had been filmed in a cinema and you could see the people getting up and all of that on a big sheet. And I was a bit tipsy, let's say, anyway. So about the only but it must have just been released because we tried to work out when we were in Corfu, and it was like June time in 2002, and it was released on May 10th 2002, so it was very close to the release date. And obviously being a dodgy, grainy, pirated copy, and the fact that we'd had a few too many beers, basically all I could remember from it when I got back was that Sean Pertwee was in it, who I adored anyway. Something to do with his sausages. Sounds so funny unless you know. And that it was about werewolves and the name Dog Soldiers. And that was really all that I could remember from it. And then I was in Blockbuster one day, R.I.P. Blockbuster, and saw it on the shelf. So I was like, yes, brilliant, I can finally watch it, and properly, sort of like without people getting up to go off to the toilet on this dodgy copy and without beer goggles on. And so obviously the second time that I watched it, just completely and utterly fell in love with the movie and realized that there was, because sometimes when you watch something, especially when you're drunk, you wonder if you've imagined a scene. And yes. that scene with Sean, my husband and I used to be like, I wonder if that really happened. or if we just were so drunk that we just thought that we saw that scene. So when we actually watched it properly on the DVD, or it might have even been a VHS, it was just like, oh, thank God that scene really happened and I didn't just create it. But yeah, and then it was very shortly after that The Descent came out, and we did see that in the cinema. And I have the vivid memories of sat there, because I'm massively claustrophobic, and being like, I had like my feet up on the seat, and I was like sort of like leaning into my husband and being like, oh, is that Obi? But yeah, so it was a dodgy pirate copy was my very, very first viewing of it. But then we got, like I said, then I got it from Blockbuster, and then at some point I obviously bought it. And it used to be on the TV in the UK as well, quite often on rotation. And whenever it came on, even though I owned the DVD, I'd always make sure that I watched it over and over and over and over and over. I've seen it so many times.
Well, it is a movie worth watching over and over, and it's well written, the characters. And one of the things I noticed watching it yesterday was that he develops the characters so quickly.
Yes.
When Sean Pertwee and his group, and I'm not going to remember everybody's character's name, but I believe he's just Sarge.
Sergeant Wells, but mainly yes. Sarge, yeah.
When he and his men are out on the exercise, it's the banter between them is what tells us what we need to know about each character. Yes. Which is so well done. And I mean, so many little things. I had forgotten that it started with the campers.
Yeah.
And they're in their tent, and they're fooling around, and the gentleman is slowly unzipping the woman's pants. He gets to the end of the zipper, and there's still a zipper sound.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
And it is wait, what is going on? And then of course they look, and you see the zipper of their tent is going up, but the way it's just so well done. It's so clever. The dialogue, again, my guts are out, Coop. Well, let's put them back in. He's like, they won't fit. So good. And I do not remember her name. Let's see if it's on. Yeah, well, I was looking for the actress's name. Megan, yeah.
Oh, Emma Cleesby.
Yes. She's great.
Yeah.
And reminds me of, I don't know if you're familiar with Bonnie Bedelia. Bonnie Bedelia. Bruce Willis's wife in Die Hard.
Oh, okay.
Possibly what she's best known from. But yes, Megan reminded me just of a young Bonnie Bedelia. I hope I have that right name. And the special ops guy, which I forgot about the dog at the beginning, which I love. I love that Neil Marshall, the obviously writer-director, would go there and do what he did. I don't know why I'm being circumspect. I didn't give my usual spoiler talk. So, folks, I'll do it now. If you haven't seen these movies, there's going to be spoilers. Go watch them, and then you can come back and watch us just spoil everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. all spoilers.
But yes, that the special ops guy, Coop, we learn about Coop. He will not shoot that dog.
Yep.
And I love that he says, I'm not against shooting a dog.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to shoot that dog. It's pointless.
Yeah. And
the fact that the special agent guy just shoots the dog.
Yeah.
Wonderful filmmaking. Storytelling. And then, of course, and this is one of those movies, I think if you don't know going in that it's a werewolf movie, it'll be a long time before you realize that it's a werewolf movie.
Yes, very much, yeah.
Which I like. And I'm always, with movies like this, I'm always torn on whether, I'm like, I really wish the marketing would have just made this like a soldier movie so the people are completely surprised.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also think it could potentially piss people off.
Yes.
I thought I was coming in to watch the next Rambo type movie, and all of a sudden there's werewolves.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So you got to talk to all of these people.
Yeah.
Did that change the way you feel about the movie?
See, that was my only thing that I was reticent about. People say, don't talk to your heroes, don't peek behind the curtain, because when you find out how they do certain things, you might not like it. But I can honestly say, not just because I'm doing the book, but honestly, that every single person involved has been amazing. So nice, so genuine. But also, it's just amplified my love for it. Finding out how things were done, finding out the different, bits and pieces. Oh, they use this, tomato sauce for this, and they use special stuff. It's just made me love it even more. I've fallen in love with all of the actors even more than I already had. Do you know what I mean? It's just, they're like family. That's what it's become. And even though I now kind of like, I'm torn, sort of. So when characters die in the film, I used to always be sad because the character had died. Now I'm sad because it's like an actor that I know as well. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, I didn't think it would be possible to love it even more, but I do. Now, the more I know about it and the more I get to know these guys, the more I do love it.
Nice. See, now I do know a few people that don't like behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
They think it spoils the magic.
Yes.
But for me, especially when it comes to lower budget movies or horror films, I'm even more impressed when I learn how they did what they did.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't, I can read the behind the scenes stuff or listen to the commentary or whatever. And then when I'm watching the movie again, I'm not lost now in, this is how they did it, and I can see this and I can see this. I can still just enjoy the movie.
Yes.
But this is on a completely different level. There's a movie called I believe it's Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter.
Right.
one of the lowest budget movies I've ever seen. And you can tell that it's low budget. None of it looks real, but I still loved listening to the commentary and the behind the scenes and learning that the intestines in that movie were just pantyhose stuffed with cotton and colored red with a marker.
It works.
I love it. I love that stuff. So can you give us what were Sarge's guts? Can you tell us, or is that an exclusive for the book?
No, it was they did use this organic matter to start with, which kind of like started rotting and was just disgusting. So in the end, they did end up using like silicone and then sort of filled it with the fake blood and stuff like that. But yeah.
And speaking of, every time, it has been a while since I watched it before yesterday. When the dog is pulling on something,
yep,
I always initially think he's actually pulling on his guts.
Yep.
But it is the bandaging.
It's the bandage, yeah.
Yes.
But so many, and it's so funny because Neil, he ummed and ahed about whether it would be his entrails that the dog was going to pull on. And they kind of thought, no, we can't do that. That's too much. That might just be like, the straw that breaks the camel's back. People might just walk out of the cinema if we do that. So it is the bandage on Sean that Sam the dog is pulling at. But people still think that's what it was. So it was like, we should have just done it anyway, because people assume it is the guts, but it wasn't. No, it's just the bandage.
Yes, it took me a moment. I'm watching. I'm like, is that dog put? No, that's the bandage. That's got to be the bandage. And yes, Sean Pertwee, fantastic. Of course, we're going to come to him again and again because he's in so many of these. And plays such diverse characters. A wonderful, beautiful man. Yeah. And he has that moment. He's, again, folks, spoilers. He's wounded by a werewolf. And of course, then that means he's going to become a werewolf. But he's able to make that sacrifice. He's able to hold out long enough and say, we know what's coming.
Yeah.
You go. I'm not going to become a werewolf. I'm going to save the day, pretty much. And I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love when they're trying to super glue him. His performance is so good. And he's on painkillers and booze.
Yep.
I love you, Coop.
Yep. And he was drunk. Sean was drunk when they filmed that. That's real.
Nice. Good for him. Such a fantastic performance, a fantastic scene.
It is, yeah, it's brilliant.
Oh, and when he tells him to, like, you gotta knock me out, and Coop punches him, and he's just like, you pussy, and punches him again. Oh,
I know, it's just brilliant. It really is. There are, like I said, I've seen it like, I don't know, 50 times. I can do the dialogue, but there's still the moments where I will just sit there and actually laugh out loud. There's still the moments where my eyes water and I'm like, oh, and it gets me every single time. It doesn't, even when I know what's coming, it doesn't detract from just the brilliance of the film, the brilliance of the storytelling, the brilliance of the dialogue. I love it.
All right. Now, before we move on, not that we can't come back, we can jump around, we can do anything we want. But before we move on to the next film, any last words on Dog Soldiers?
Just I think that everybody should definitely give it a go, because if you like comedy, then it's got that. If you like creature features, it's got that. If you like suspense and tension, it's got everything going for it. It really has. And I know that sometimes some of the dialogue gets a bit lost in translation when Americans watch it, and I've heard that people have had to put subtitles on to be able to understand the guys. I don't think it's that bad. But there we are. But you know, it is very realistic, and because I come from not military, but because obviously I was a police officer, I recognize that banter as well. You know, it is very, very authentic. It's how we used to talk to each other in the police. So if you've got any kind of military or policing responder background, then you'll recognize the situation that they're in.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
they deal with it like people would deal with it as well. You know, there's this, you know, they don't all suddenly turn into Rambo when they get into the situation. There is realistic and authentic performances there. You know, like with Terry, you can see that he's shaking at some points because he is nervous, and you would be even with military training. You're not military trained to fight against a werewolf kind of thing. So it's just great. I love it.
I was in the Air Force, and I did have a little bit of special combat training. And watching this, when they first go out on the exercise, and it's them versus the Special Forces guys, I remembered some of the training that I went through, and my opinion has always been, if you are the group going into someone else's territory, you're going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the special, whether or not they were Special Forces guys, they're already hunkered down. They already have they know the lay of the land. They'll have their booby traps, their whatever set up. You're the people walking in. You don't know what you're walking into. And yeah, every time I see a scene like that I flash back to that training. But yeah. Love the banter, the different characters. I don't remember which one that just wants to watch the football game.
Yeah, Joe.
Match.
Joe just wants to watch the footy. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to The Descent. We have right here. Original unrated cut I have.
Oh, nice.
And right off the bat, since this is the original unrated cut, this movie led to a huge argument between a coworker and I. It was 20, 30 minutes long of us just yelling at each other while we were working, because it just so happened we had both watched it on the same weekend. Came back into work on Monday. We're working together, chatting. The movie came up. And I don't remember which of us mentioned the ending first.
Right.
But we'll just say he says, yeah. And again, spoilers, folks. He says she has the vision, and then you realize she's still trapped in the cave. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? She gets out of the cave. She's in the truck, and she has the vision of her friend, and the truck drives by. She's out. He's like, no. So argued 15, 20, 25 minutes, however long. And then finally I said, wait a minute. There's a UK cut and an American cut.
Yeah.
Which one did you see? He's like, well, I don't know which one it was, but she's still in the cave. I was like, I think that's the original ending.
Yes.
Because we Americans need to have a happy ending, apparently.
Apparently so, yeah.
So I did eventually get to see the original ending and have it here. So, The Descent, a very female movie.
Yeah.
All females except for the beginning. And I can only think of one man, which is the husband.
Yeah.
Are there any others?
No.
Okay, I did not think so. So, you say is this one of or the scariest movie to you?
Definitely one of. I'm not scariest would probably be like stuff from childhood that still haunts me, ghost stuff, that kind of things. But yeah, definitely the thing that scared me the most as an adult. And that has nothing to do with the creatures, the crawlers, who are awesome, and are some of the guys from Dog Soldiers actually played the crawlers. But it's the caves. I am so claustrophobic, and you couldn't pay me to go into a cave. no amount of money, $1 million, no, still not going to do it. And that's the reason. Oh, it's just awful. Just, and they just, I get it. So, like some of the bit when Sarah's in there and she thinks that she's trapped, and the stuff's falling down, and then she has that kind of like almost panic attack. So Beth has to pull her out. That's just, it's just too realistic. And I think that's the thing, I like my horror to be not realistic, stuff that's never ever going to happen. And that could happen.
Yes. Well, this is another movie where the first half is a different movie than and I'm saying half. I don't know exactly where it happens, but this could have easily just been sort of a psychological survival movie about these women, these friends who are trapped in a cave.
Yep.
And trying to find their way out and how it affects them psychologically, but then it turns into this monster movie.
Yeah.
Which just ups the terror factor.
Amplifies it, yeah.
And the monsters are very cool.
Yeah.
And yes, horrifying. And it does, the monsters and being trapped preys on the minds of our characters. And then, so Sarah is the main character?
Yes.
Now, it has been a while since I've seen this one. I did not have time to rewatch it. Does she know going in about her husband and the other woman, or does she discover it?
I don't think she does. No, I don't think she does. I think she probably suspects, because I think she suspects there's a reason why Juno hasn't been in touch with her for such a long time. She knows that there's something, but I think that when she finds out about that particular betrayal, I think it is a total shock. And it's just what completely throws her over the edge. I mean, she's half gone anyway. She's got nothing to live for. Her husband's dead. Her child's dead. Though, she's gone through the worst that you could possibly go through anyway. So she's got nothing left to. She just fights and goes for it. And she is fucking amazing.
Yes. Well, that opening scene with the death of her husband and child, just shocking.
Yeah. Again, I remember being sat in the cinema and going, no, that's not going to, no, he's not going to. Oh, he went there. Straight away, he went there.
And I just realized there's a similar, I'm sort of jumping around here, but in Centurion, there's something that happens in Centurion that's similar to something, if I'm remembering correctly, that happens in here, which is essentially hobbling someone to create bait and a distraction.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about that. Let's see. Anything in particular you want to point out or bring up about this movie?
Again, I think it's sort of because quite a few of the people that, especially crew-wise, that were involved with Dog Soldiers were involved with this. So I've got to speak to them a little bit about, and again, it's the, as we were saying about before, whether things have been spoiled or not for me when I've found out stuff, I just find the movie making absolutely fascinating. And when I learned that Simon Bowles, the production manager and set builder, had built the caves, so that was all filmed in Pinewood Studios, and they'd built those caves out of like polystyrene and stuff, I was absolutely blown away by that. I don't think there's any point when you watch that movie that you don't think that that's realistic. Not that I've been in caves. I've never, because I said no. But at no point was I like, oh yeah, I can see a bit of the set over there. Yeah, that's not real. The whole time I was completely invested and was like, I don't know how they did it or what, but this must be real. They found a giant cave somewhere that they could film in. And to when you learn that somebody's made that, it's just, that blows me away. It's fantastic.
That's amazing. I do think, and again, I'm not a Hollywood insider. I think the only clue that it's a a studio is where they're able to place the camera.
I guess so, yeah.
Because you would certain shots, if it were a real cave, it's, you know, how would they have gotten that shot?
This is
true. I don't think they had GoPros at the time that this was.
No. Sam McCurdy was the DOP who has worked with Neil through most of it, and he's a lovely guy. And he said, you know, basically, like the shot that terrifies me with Sarah when she's stuck in that cave. Shauna McDonald was literally like they'd wedged her like a sausage roll, you know, like into like a hot dog into this like thing, and they just had the camera just like nail gunned onto something where they just like pushed it along. It's all practical. Everything is done like that, and with proper, you know, this was still, you know, obviously now it's all done digitally, but this is all still film. This is all still, you know, shot properly on cameras. And they would, for those kind of shots, they would literally strip the camera down to its very, very bare bones and then just like whack it onto one of the caves and go for it. It's just mad.
You've mentioned repeating crew, repeating actors, all these people that have worked with Neil on many things. And to me, and I could be completely wrong about this, to me that says that this is a good person. It's someone people want to work with. I feel that way about Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he has, like, Liam Neeson stars in his movie A Million Ways to Die in the West. He's been on Family Guy. He has a 60-second cameo on an episode of The Orville. And I'm like, it must be because he likes, I mean, maybe Seth MacFarlane's just throwing money at people. I don't know. But my impression is that when you see that sort of thing, that's a good sign for the creator. Yes. That people want to work with them. They're creating a good environment. I mean, I think there are exceptions where you have auteurs that people just want to work with because they're an auteur, but generally, I like to see the repeat offenders, as it were.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts on The Descent?
Just again that it is. It's just brilliant. It's just, again, it's character driven. And for anybody that might be put off by the fact that it's an all-female cast, don't be, because they are absolutely amazing. You know, such strong actors. And also Neil fought to keep the actors and the characters as they were. And there's no kind of like scenes where they're suddenly like, oh, we're in the caves and it's water, let's strip off into our bikinis and start frolicking around. You know, he made sure that these were women, they were strong women, and that they were treated that way. There was never going to be any kind of like sexual content and like looking at the women as pieces of meat. That those women are fucking badass. I would want one of them next to me, you know, in a fight at any time.
Well, maybe not.
Or
Juno.
Maybe not Juno. I mean,
Sarah you felt you could trust her, yeah. I mean, she's a badass as well, but maybe not the most trustworthy.
Yeah.
Next up on my pile, anyway, we have Doomsday.
Yes.
And this movie is bonkers. This, I always just when I'm talking about it, I describe it as Escape from New York meets medieval Arthurian meets Mad Max meets a pandemic film.
Yep.
And it all works somehow.
Somehow, yeah. It shouldn't work. It's crazy, but it works.
Sean Pertwee is back.
Yay.
Playing a completely different kind of character. And he's a doctor in this. And the other doctor I recognized only because I had just watched Dog Soldiers, but is it Spoon?
Spoon, yeah, Darren Moffat, yep.
Which I thought, I was like, two completely different characters. Spoon seemed to be the most sort of gung-ho.
Yeah.
Almost happy to be there.
Yes.
In Dog Soldiers. And in this, he's a timid-ish. He sort of comes into his own, but a timid doctor character that's being forced essentially to go into this situation. And he does a great job. Sean does a great job. Everybody in here, fantastic. The guy who plays, is it Oz? The leader of the cannibal crew. I love his performance.
Okay, so that's Craig Conway, and he is the guy at the very start. He is the camper David at the start of Dog Soldiers.
Yeah, he's just so over the top and amazing.
Yeah, he is. He's crazy.
That whole scene, I love the music choices in this too. And that scene on the stage.
Yes.
Where it's like, I don't know, Burning Man. Well, literally.
Yeah.
But he comes out and he's dancing, and I'm an Adam Ant fan, so I loved hearing some Adam Ant music in there. And then just the performances, and then the can and the guys come out. And he goes from this sort of funny to just brutal and scary at the snap of a finger. For those who don't know, all of Scotland, right, is closed off because of a pandemic.
Yes.
And so many years pass. Rona Mitra plays a girl that got out of Scotland as they were shutting it down. Now she's some sort of
major
secret agent. I don't know what. She's in the forces. She's being sent back in because they think there's a cure. And the plague is now in London. And so she has to go back into this sort of crazy country that's just this weird mix of things. And yes, Rona Mitra, fantastic.
She's amazing. Yeah.
Again, another badass woman.
Yes.
Just kicking ass. And I'd forgotten Bob Hoskins.
Yeah.
And Malcolm McDowell.
Yep.
And again, the actress that plays Megan.
Emma Cleesby.
Yes, she's Rona Mitra's mother at the beginning.
That's right. Yep.
I had not realized that the first time I watched this. So again, a bunch of returning actors.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on Doomsday?
So I went into it knowing that this was kind of like something that Neil had always wanted to make. It had a mix of a lot of his own favorite films and genres in, but it wasn't horror. So I knew not to expect a Dog Soldiers. I knew not to expect a Descent. And I absolutely love it. I think it's amazing. I think it's just so batshit crazy. It's unbelievable. But again, it works, and it's to do with the dialogue. It's to do with the characters, and I love to see, because there's girls from The Descent in it, and there's guys from Dog Soldiers in it. So that was awesome anyway. Well, watching it going like, oh, I know you. But I think it's great. And it would be hard for me to choose like which portion of the movie that I like the most, because I like the bit where they're in London, it's almost like Aliens, or I like the bit when it's like Mad Max, or I like the bit where it's suddenly like you said, Arthurian, and there's like swords and all that. I don't know, it's just all brilliant. And Rona Mitra, Eden Sinclair, is just that's who I want to be when I grow up. She's so awesome. Oh my god, is she amazing.
Do you want to have the camera eye?
Yes. I have. I'm a robot, aren't I? Anyway,
that's
so
right.
I have the camera eye.
It starts out this sort of pandemic thing, and then we go into this sort of not James Bond, but this sort of crime, whatever, where she and her partner are going in. There's some sort of crime going down. And then once they go back into Scotland, to me, that's where you're sort of escaped from New York.
Yeah.
Everything's desolate. Everything's cut off. And they get captured by the cannibals. Then they're able to make their escape. And all of a sudden, it's dudes on horseback in armor.
Yeah.
They're going to a castle.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? And then once they escape from there, it's this huge, amazing car chase a la Mad Max.
I know. Yeah. That car chase.
Insane.
It is insane, but it's just so good. You can just feel the adrenaline when you're watching it. It's just awesome.
And then we're kind of back to the escape from New York, where she pulls the old kind of switcheroo and is able to record the bad guy confessing to his bad guyness and gets it out to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, just again, amazing performance. The action sequences are insane.
They are. Yep.
And there are action bits in Dog Soldiers and the Descent. I mean, obviously we have these soldiers fighting werewolves, but these are the action set pieces in Doomsday are huge.
Yes.
Yep. Huge, and not something I had seen from Neil Marshall before. So I don't know. Now, you say this was something he wanted to make for a long time.
Yeah.
Did it take a long time to make once they were working on it? Because I don't know how much has to go into those huge things.
Yeah, it did. And they filmed it in South Africa. So they were over there, and they would take it's sort of different parts of the crew would be there for different scenes and whatnot. So it did take longer than the other two, definitely, because of the sheer number of people in the cast. And I mean, the scene like that you were describing when Soul's on the stage, and there's obviously all of the audience are going nuts and whatnot before they roast poor Sean Pertwee.
Yes.
They were all just South African extras, so they just kind of like got a load of people in to like fill out of the numbers and stuff. But yeah, that one took a bit longer, but that one wasn't it was independent still, but there was a studio involved with that, so they had that bit more money and input from that kind of thing as well.
Well, I mean, they must have had money. They had a Bentley in it.
Yes.
So, a Bentley that got some damage done to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I could just talk about so many aspects of this movie, but we do have a limited amount of time. So any final thoughts, anything else for Doomsday?
Just again, it is you'll find it hard to decide which is your favorite bit when you watch it, and you will think to yourself afterwards as well, how did that work? It's just, why do those pieces go together? It just shouldn't do, but it does. And it's a great movie. I think it's a fun movie. It's most, apart from Dog Soldiers, it's probably the most fun that he's had on there. And like you said, those action scenes, they're Hollywood worthy. Some of them are just absolutely phenomenal. And that's the thing I love. Like, how did they get the camera doing that? And how did they get that shot? And I'm like, yeah, I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, that car chase at the end is just fantastic.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, fun. Over the top fun.
Yeah.
With great characters. He seems to get, I don't know if it's because he makes the right choices in his cast, or if he's, as a director, is able to pull out these performances. But so far, the three movies we've discussed, they've all just been great characters, great acting performances, everything. So now we will move on. I think I have these in the correct order. So this is the first one that I had never seen before until yesterday, and that is Centurion.
Yeah.
And I hate that this little voodoo thing is printed on the cover. That's there are books that I have never purchased because they have like the little thing that says now a major motion picture.
Oh yeah.
Or
Yep.
I hate that. I eventually will break down. If I can never find a copy without that, I'll break down and buy it. But I don't know why. That's my pet peeve. Hate when that's on there. So I was hoping that was a sticker I could take off. But
Oh,
unfortunately, it's not.
oh, boo.
So now he's this is historical.
Yeah.
Fiction. It does say. Now I'm trying to remember. Does this one say inspired by a true story?
Yes, it is. So there is this legend about the Ninth Legion that, like you know, that they were an actual, real part of the Roman army, and they really did disappear. But nobody knows the truth, and nobody ever will know. So although it was, so yeah, inspired by true events. So we know that that happened, but we don't know why it happened. So this was Neil's interpretation, what he thinks happened. And of course, because he this again is something they'd always wanted to do, because he grew up in Newcastle and lived up in Carlisle for quite a long time, and that's not too far from Scotland and from Hadrian's Wall, which is obviously the big wall that was built between Scotland and England. So this kind of thing was just down the road from him. He'd heard these stories his entire life, so this was something which is very close to his heart.
And it's another one with just amazing visuals, sweeping vistas.
Yes. Yeah.
So far, all of these movies, I'm watching. I'm like, I want to go there.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'll go camp out and take my chances with the werewolves, because that is a beautiful, beautiful place.
Well, this one actually was filmed in Scotland. So you've got, obviously, Dog Soldiers is set in Scotland, but was filmed in Luxembourg. The Descent was mainly done in a studio in the middle of the UK, and Doomsday was mainly filmed over in South Africa, but this one was actually in Scotland.
So we've got Michael Fassbender.
Yes.
Who,
amazing.
To me, I mainly know him as Magneto.
Right. Yep.
He's young Magneto. I couldn't name off the top of my head anything else that I've seen him in. I know of other things that he's in. And Dominic West, more people from Dog Soldiers, and I believe Neil Marshall's ex-wife.
Yes, Axel. Yeah.
Who I looked up some trivia on IMDb and now have a book she wrote on my wish list on Amazon.
Yeah, she's I don't know an awful lot about her, but she seems to be very, very successful. She's I think, am I right in saying that she was involved in Haunting of Hill House, I think, and Blythe Manor? I think she's something to do with that. So she's gone on and done major things. She's quite a powerhouse within horror, but I've never spoken to her.
Yeah, she has a book. It's something about horror in the 20th century or 21st century.
Oh, cool.
Just looked very interesting. So yeah, it's on my wish list for my next Amazon order. Because again, anything horror, I want to read it.
Oh yeah.
I thought that Centurion had a little bit of that Doomsday, and then it felt to me like a number of different movies. Not so much different genres, because Doomsday's got multiple genres, but it started out, okay, it's just going to be the siege of this garrison, but everybody's wiped out really quickly, except for Michael Fassbender. Then it's, okay, it's going to be this movie about the Romans going after the Picts. But then they get wiped out very quickly. And then I thought, okay, well, now it's the movie about rescuing the general, I think he is.
Yeah.
That doesn't work out.
Nope.
And then it becomes getting back to the Romans and reporting and surviving. So not in my opinion, a straightforward narrative.
No.
And I'm not saying that in a negative way.
Yeah.
It is nice and bloody.
Yes.
I do like the gore.
Oh yeah.
Heads coming off. parts of heads coming off. And I saw on Twitter you just rewatched this recently.
Yes, well, watched it again. I don't think I'd seen this since it was released, which was 2010, I think. So obviously it had been a while. So I wanted to refresh my memory. So we watched it yesterday. And there's a couple of scenes in that where you're just again like, whoa, I can't believe it. It's just so good. And we watched the documentary afterwards, like the making of. And it was so funny because I obviously knowing Neil, I know Paul Hyatt, who was the special effects guy who did all of the stuff in this, and so I know what they can do. And my husband was like, the bit with the big fireballs, it was like, that's got to be CGI. And I was like, I'm telling you, it will not be CGI because Neil doesn't do CGI. That will be practical. And he was like, I'm telling you, there's no way they would have got permission to light these things on fire and roll them down the hill. And I'm like, that's real. If I know anything about Neil and Paul, that's real. And then when we watched the documentary and they showed them putting like the kerosene on and lighting them, and Steve was like, I can't believe he did that.
Great scene. When those fireballs just start rolling down the hills. Fantastic. Although I don't know why the soldiers didn't just sort of make their shields into ramps and let the fireballs roll over them.
They didn't think
that wouldn't have worked. I don't know. Amazing battle scenes and fight scenes. And this is where I mentioned sort of a crossover type of scene. So in The Descent, if I have it correct, Sarah jams her whatever it is into Juno's calf.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Almost at the end, that is, but yes, she does.
And then in this, we have the two characters that have run from the wolves.
Yeah.
And at first, I know the one character is played by Noel Clarke.
Yeah.
Hopefully I have that name correct.
Yeah.
And I do not remember who the other one is.
Is it J.J. Field, Neve Campbell's partner?
Possibly. I don't recall.
Yeah.
But I thought, especially based on something that Noel Clarke's character had said earlier in the movie, it happens very quickly. They're running from these wolves. The one guy falls down, says he can't keep going. Noel Clarke comes back. And then very quickly, you see someone get their Achilles tendon or their calf slashed.
Achilles, yeah.
And I thought it was Noel Clarke that did it.
Right, yeah.
To the other guy. But then, of course, immediately realized, no, the other guy did it. And basically is like, the wolves are going after you, buddy. I'm out of here.
Yeah. See ya! One of us is getting out of here.
Just like in The Descent.
Yeah.
A lot of twists and turns in this movie. A lot of betrayals and
yes.
And especially, I mean, at the end, a huge betrayal at the very end.
Yeah.
With what rank was the guy in the robes? The one that
I don't know. Just high up.
Yes. A Caesar type fellow.
That's right. Yeah. Some sort of emperor type person.
Yes. So after all of this that everybody's gone through, and they had the picked woman that was their guide, but it turns out she was still working with Picts and betrays them. And
she's so awesome.
Yes, she's fantastic. There she is.
Yep.
Cover there.
Beautiful as well. Absolutely beautiful woman.
And again, a badass. I love badass.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then we have the guy whose name I can't remember, who cuts the Achilles tendon and then turns on Michael Fassbender.
Yep.
But Fassbender finally makes it back.
Yep.
Makes it back, and this Emperor Caesar-y type guy is just like, we don't want anyone to know about this. Kill him, so nobody knows. It's like, oh, come on. So I was gonna wait until we talked about The Reckoning, but what does Neil have against a happy ending?
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
I mean, Although, I mean, technically, Fassbender survives.
Yeah, and he goes off and he finds his witch. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Imogen Poots.
Yeah.
Again, fantastic cast in this movie.
Yeah.
And we also, again, going back to Dog Soldiers, this great banter between the military people, and that's how we learn their character.
Yeah.
Who they are within the scheme of things.
Yeah.
That Neil Marshall guy does a pretty good job.
Yeah. He's all right, isn't he? Yeah.
He might be going places.
Yeah.
Anything specific or any final thoughts on Centurion?
For me, again, sort of like rewatching it, but not having seen it for such a long time, it was the intensity of the fight scenes and again, I knew from talking to Neil that it was some of like the camera guys and the grips and those kind of people that had worked on this that had then gone on to work on Game of Thrones and had recommended Neil to the producers over at Game of Thrones to come and work on obviously the Blackwater episode, which is so famous and all of that. Excuse me. But again, as you said, it's the scenery in this. It's just beautiful. Again, Sam's cinematography is just phenomenal. And when you realize just how fucking cold it was at minus 18 or something at one point, Neil says it is, and those actors are just there doing that, it's what I said, there's no CGI, there's no green screens in this or anything. That's all, everything you see is real. That's real snow, real ice there. And Neil actually says, when the characters are shivering, they were, because they were freaking freezing.
Oh yeah, the one scene where they're sleeping in the snow, just painful to me just to watch. And this is another, I can't wait to dig into all of the special features on these.
There's some good stuff on this one.
All right, we're gonna skip this for a moment. We'll set that one aside and we'll talk about The Reckoning. Another one that actually, I don't think I'd heard of this until you mentioned it.
Oh, okay.
And now, was this, there was a lot of Shudder, a lot of promos for Shudder. Was this a direct to Shudder?
Yes.
Movie. Okay. So I like on the cover from the director of The Descent and Game of Thrones. And this is, unfortunately, the only special features on this is deleted scenes.
Oh, okay.
Sean Pertwee's back.
Yay.
Again, playing a completely different kind of role.
Yep.
And this one absolutely said inspired by true events.
Yes.
And essentially it's about the witch hunts.
Yeah.
But a very specific character.
Yeah.
And again, rolling vistas, beautiful shots. And what I came away with from this was the most terrifying thing to me in this movie is the mass hysteria and how easily people turn on someone and just simply say, she's a witch.
Yeah.
And the unflagging belief and faith of certain people, in this case, the Sean Pertwee character, that I have always found terrifying. He plays it so well as the witch finder. And I feel like he's being genuine when he says things like, I don't want to do this to you.
Yeah. Yep.
But you must confess. I am doing this to save your soul.
Yep.
And I find that terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
More so than the sort of nightmare images scattered throughout. So any initial thoughts? Anything in particular about The Reckoning you wanted to talk about?
So I was lucky enough to get a screener for this before it was released on Shudder. And it was the first thing, obviously, that Neil had done for quite some time, so I was excited about that. And obviously there was the film that we haven't mentioned yet, but but this is back to Neil being Neil for me. This is Neil writing, directing, editing. This has Neil's stamp on it rather than anything else. And again, knowing that Sean was back in it, that was it. I was already sold. And it was the first screener that I got to officially review. So I remember I sat there like all professional, like with like pen and paper, and I was like, I'm gonna drop notes all the way through. And I made about 2 notes because I was just so engrossed in it. I didn't want to be writing stuff. I'll come back and I'll do the notes when I watch it a second time. But I said this is a period of time that is very, very interesting anyway. And because it's just so horrific, like exactly what you've just said, the fact that it was just like, oh, you've done something, you're a witch, and that's it. That's literally all it took. So like the Crucible and like the Salem witch trials, obviously is our version of all of that kind of stuff. And I think sometimes people forget that we had it, there was just as much stuff over here as well. And in Europe, it's always Salem that gets spoken about. But, we had those Witchfinder generals, they were John Hopkins and whatnot. They are real people. And Sean did a lot of research into all of that to kind of sort of get ready for his character as well. And exactly what you just said, and Sean has said this, a lot of people have criticized his character for saying, oh, he must hate women. That's what, Moorcroft hated women. And he's like, no, that's it. The bigger picture is, if it had been a man that was accused of a witch, he would have done exactly the same. It didn't matter. It was the fact that he was so zealot and so, like, this is I want to make you better. I want to get rid of this. And it was that. It wasn't anything to do with, okay, they were nearly always women and that just happened to be that. But it wasn't that his character didn't like women. It was that he believed he could get rid of these demons. And it was just horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And actually, the original script was more, so it was more Carrie-like, that the character Grace Haverwell would be a witch. She would have these powers, and that somehow that things would happen. Whereas when Neil and Charlotte decided to make some changes to the script, they've left it's more ambiguous. So you don't really know, does she have some powers there? Or is some of the, like you say, like the creature that appears, like it's meant to be the devil and all that kind of stuff, is that just in her imagination because things have gone so terribly wrong? We never really know that. Is it just like self-fulfilling prophecy in some way? Or is it all completely, that this awful lord wanted to get his wicked way with her, she refuses, and he's like, right, she's a witch, and that's it?
My interpretation was, first, I was waiting for her for the sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, where she was not a witch, but because of what she's being put through, what's going on, she essentially makes that bargain, at the end and becomes a witch, is given powers to for the reckoning, as it were. But of course that doesn't happen. So my interpretation was the things that she would see were at the beginning the result of her grief. And then towards the end, as the creature shows up and all of this, the result of the torture, the lack of sleep, everything that she's going through. And again, with the unhappy endings, although this one, he always has that one survivor. I guess. But I didn't think she was. I believed until it's revealed that she drank the tainted wine.
Right. Okay.
So it's like, okay, she's making that sacrifice for her daughter. But then when she cuts the rope for the portcullis, if that's how you say that. And the young kid says, no, that wasn't the tainted wine. And she's now trapped.
Oh, I know.
I was like, oh, are you kidding me? Come on, Neil, what are you doing to me?
Yep.
It
He did
turns
it
out
again.
she's not gonna have the plague, and
Yep.
she trapped herself.
I know.
But she does make it out.
Yep.
And I assume is now going to search out her child. I think possibly my favorite thing in the whole movie is when her friend's husband gets his head run over.
Yes, and didn't he deserve it? I literally was like, woohoo!
That was so awesome.
It was, definitely, yeah.
And what does he say? So our main character, and for the life of me, I cannot remember her name. I'm just getting too old. So
Grace.
is Grace. I was going to say Grace, but I wasn't sure. The baby's Abigail?
Yes, Abby.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Grace, her husband has committed suicide because he has the plague.
Yep.
And this scumbag of a landlord tries to coerce her into sex, then tries to rape her. And when she's able to repel him, that's where the witch accusations come from. Just a petty, petty man.
Yep.
Didn't get what he wants.
Yep.
But we meet Grace's friend and her friend's husband at one point, and the husband gets caught up in all of it.
Yeah.
And the wife speaks her mind. The husband doesn't like that, attacks her, and she picks up that rock. And I forget what she's knocked him down. He is on the ground. I forget what he says. He makes some snide comment. What are you going to do with that?
Exactly, yeah.
And she throws it at the horse attached to their cart. Spooks
Brilliant.
the horse, and it just runs his head over.
Yep.
So wonderful. Absolutely fantastic. But the things that she goes through, the tortures that she endures.
Yeah.
And we see the scumbag's true colors. When Sean Pertwee's character says she's going to be put to death. And he's just like, no, wait, no. Because he's still hoping he's gonna get her.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, a very interesting, complicated, not in a bad way, just the interpersonal things, complicated story. Fascinating and frightening.
Yes.
And I like seeing all the rats running around.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, hey, dummies, there's the problem.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Yeah, again, shot beautifully, and you can almost smell it as you're watching. It's like, oh, it's so dirty and grimy and gross and just horrible, like bodies just still hung up festering in the streets and stuff, and you're like, and you wonder why you all got the plague.
Yes.
But yeah, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And again, Sean, just a horrible character, but one that I'm not going to say you can relate to, because you can't in any way, shape or form. But like I said, it's not just, he's not a psychopath or anything like that. He truly believes in what he's trying to do. And yeah, just utterly terrifying character. And the woman that he's got with him, the scarred, burned woman, I mean, how could she stay with him after all of that? It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Well, zealotry. I mean,
yep, that's it. Yeah.
I would be interested in a movie. So if you want to call up Neil and let him know,
yep.
Just in general, any type of movie, even a book that sort of told me the story of how a witch finder, it would be great if it was Sean Pertwee's character, but how they came to that point. What was his life like that made him this person?
Yeah.
That created such an unshakable belief in what he's doing. And he's doing horrible things.
Yeah.
You know, for him, it's an ends justifies the means kind of thing, because he believes he's saving people's souls.
That's right.
But yeah, so I would be fascinated by the story of how someone gets to that point.
Yep.
And yes, Sean Pertwee does an amazing job.
Yeah.
But when doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it's not a likable character, but I couldn't take my eyes off of it.
Yes, especially the mustache.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Oh, to think that poor thing burned off.
I know. See, another horrible death, and fire again. There's nearly always fire involved with him.
Yeah, I don't remember which point it was in watching these movies. I'm like, Neil blew up another building.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, he loves his fire. In fact, I was jokingly saying to my husband earlier that if he hadn't have become a director, looking at all these horrible things and his obsession with fire, then Neil could have been a serial killer.
I'm glad he found his outlet.
Yeah.
All right. Final thoughts on The Reckoning?
Just another fantastic movie, and probably even though personally The Descent is the scariest, in many ways The Reckoning is also the scariest because it's based on things that happened, which is, well, you know, when it says like about the amount of people, men and women, that were killed because of this, just all over. And obviously they did it because well, I mean, when they filmed it, it was obviously pre-COVID, so the fact that it came out and is kind of like quite relevant because of the plague, and then we had COVID and all that kind of stuff, but an awful lot of it was also because of the whole Me Too thing that was happening, and the, you know, going after this person, which happens so often in anyway. So it's, although it's an historical film, it's got a hell of a lot of, you know, themes that are still very much relevant today. Yes. And very scary still today. So yeah, another amazing film. And it's Neil and Sean on magic.
Well, all right, we have this.
Yep.
Okay, so I saw this in the theater. I was very excited for it. I'm a Hellboy fan. I'm a Neil Marshall fan. I found it a little disappointing. Now, there are things in it that I really like. I think David Harbour does a great job.
Yeah.
I think the stuff with Baba Yaga is probably the best stuff in the movie. But there are some problems with it. Now, I have heard that it's a case of studio interference. Do you know anything?
Only bits and pieces. So I have never seen this movie. Okay. I've watched the originals, and my husband has seen this. He didn't mind it, actually. He just took it for face value for what it was. But I knew the problems that Neil had with it, and it was very much a case of having all the money in the world but no creative control whatsoever. And there were problems with the script, you know, sort of like days before it was being filmed, there were changes being made to different bits and pieces. It was all over the place, and he really didn't enjoy the experience whatsoever. So because I knew that he'd felt that the whole thing had been kind of like sullied by not being able to put his stamp on it, I've never bothered to watch it because I don't consider it to be his work. It's something that he did for somebody else. It's not his. So I haven't even seen it.
Okay. Well, as I said, and I will rewatch this since I did buy this for this discussion. And I wanted to have everything. I will rewatch it. Let me see. I can't read it because my eyesight's not that great, but there is at least one special feature on here. One or two. So that's nice. I'll get to look at that. But yeah, like I said, David Harbour, fantastic.
Yep, I love him. He's brilliant. Yep.
Some sweeping vistas. There are some set pieces that work, I think, but it almost feels like a movie where there were too many hands.
Yes.
In it. too much interference. I think there are elements of Neil Marshall, but then there are things that I don't think I would not see these things and go, oh, Neil Marshall did that.
Yeah.
But I'm always willing to give something a second try, and I think hopefully my buying this supports Neil a little bit. So I guess that's all we have to say about Hellboy. Now, do you have any insight, any insider information on what Neil is doing now?
So his latest film, which again he co-wrote with Charlotte Kirk, who he co-wrote The Reckoning with, who is his real life partner as well. They have a new film which will be coming out. It's going to be out August time, and that's called The Lair. It is the closest thing that he has done to Dog Soldiers and The Descent since he did those, insofar as it is another movie where something happens with some members of, I think it's the RAF this time, where they get shot down over in Afghanistan, and a rescue team comes in to find them, and then there's something which has gone wrong, and they encounter we get more of his famous creatures. And that's basically all that's been released so far, and all that I can say. That some of the cast are listed on Internet Movie Database. They're all British actors, which again is a big thing with him. Although some of them are playing Americans this time. Jamie Bamber is one of the actors involved in it, and Charlotte's the main character, and she is actually, I've forgotten, Kate Sinclair, and she is, because of the timelines, probably the aunt of Eden, something like that. I can't remember exactly what he said, but there is that link, because there's quite often links within his movies to different bits and pieces and timelines and things. But yeah,
almost like sausage links.
Yeah. Yes.
I had to do it. That was horrible.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So this is it's gonna be good again. I forget, it was somewhere like Hungary that they filmed. I can't remember exactly. Hungary was The Reckoning. It was somewhere like that anyway. It wasn't Afghanistan, because obviously they couldn't, it's not safe and that kind of thing, but you'd never know, because it's all the sound, and he's all gone back to practical effects. The creatures are absolutely horrific. It's going to be good. And that should hopefully, fingers crossed, have a theatrical release as well. That's certainly what they're planning on.
Well, I hope it does. I hope it hits theaters here, and that I can go and see it. Because it sounds fantastic, and I'm always looking forward to more from Neil.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right. So any final thoughts, I guess, on Neil Marshall, just in general, since that's he is our topic.
Yeah. I have read his latest script. I don't know what is out there about it, so I'm not going to say too much, apart from it's not horror. It's a complete and utter change in direction again, but it works so well, and I'm so excited for when it comes out. And I know a couple of other things which he's got planned as well, and just everything that he's got planned that's coming up is going to be, we're going back to old school Neil. He's been there, he's done the director for hire stuff, he's getting back to, he's writing stuff now and back in with creative control, and so the next few years are going to be very exciting for Neil fans, definitely.
Nice, good to hear. All right, anything that you want to plug for yourself?
No, just keep looking out for news on sausages, really, because we are hoping, fingers crossed, the 10th of May is the 20th anniversary of the movie, so we are hoping to get it out as close as possible to coincide with that. And I don't think it will affect you in America, I'm not sure, but Second Sight are putting out the 4K DVD. And that should be around June time, something like that. But I'm not sure whether that's just a UK thing, or because you've had the Scream Factory one. Mm-hmm. Oh no, that's just a Blu-ray, isn't it? That's not a 4K restoration.
Well, my copy is just a Blu-ray.
Just a Blu-ray, yeah. I think the second sight one must be the first 4K restoration, because I've got a 4K digital, but I think this is the first 4K that's like a DVD that's coming out, and that's going to have all the special features. Because there's a German DVD that came out a couple of years ago, and that's got like when some of the German ones have the special features, like with the booklets and the postcards and all those bits and pieces. So I keep looking on eBay, but it's like ridiculous price. But but the second sight one's going to have all like it's got extra, like brand new commentaries and extra features, a book of essays that people have written and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, beautiful. Keep a look out for that.
Well, I just got my first 4K TV ever a couple of months ago.
Nice.
Or a month ago, but I don't have a 4K disc player yet.
Right.
So I have not purchased any 4K stuff, but I will be upgrading.
Yeah.
and digging into that 4K stuff. And of course, we want people to check out Candisha Press.
Yes.
And its newest release, /Her.
Yeah.
And I assume that Twisted Tainted Tales is still available.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I keep forgetting about poor old Twisted. Yes, still there. Sales are gradually, just plodding along with that one. But yeah, that's still there. Please buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to fund all of this somehow. Every single penny that I make on the books, I just buy more, as we all do.
My sister just gave me some money for helping her out with some things, and I immediately just bought books.
Yeah, that's what we always do. Yeah.
I mean, it was 10 minutes, and I was ordering books. All right, where can people find you online?
Best place is Twitter, which I keep changing it, but I think is just Janine Pipe 28. So that's the best place. That's where I haunt the most. My Facebook, I did have an author page, and it was just too much hard work to try and keep up on all the different platforms. So Facebook's more for friends and family. So yeah, sometimes you can find me over on Instagram, trying my best to post interesting photos and failing miserably. People like Sadie Hartman, who can do just these gorgeous, like, I don't even know where she puts the camera to get the shots. It just looks stunning. And if I can, I've got just my iPhone, and I'm just trying to get it so that it's but yeah, so Twitter's best place to find me.
Great. I will say I post a lot of pictures of books on Instagram, and I just put them on the bed, take my phone, click the picture. No fancy setups or anything. All right. Well, if you can just hang out for a moment, I'll do the outro and all of that. But thank you very much.
Thank you
for being here and sharing some of your inside knowledge.
Yep.
And hopefully revealing that you're a robot will not start the robot revolution. I hope I didn't just lead us to Terminator.
Yeah.
So folks, again, let's thank Janine Pipe. And if you have any comments or questions, you can put them in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. I think that covers everything. So until next time, folks, read more books.